Hi everyone, my name is Boza, and thank you so much for tuning into my YouTube channel. Today we are doing a third year review, and I know I took so long to do this video, but it's because third year was a lot. As you can see, I'm in bright colors because it's a new year. There's a new freshness within me, and yeah, I just want to talk about third year, and I hope you guys pay attention because third year is a very grueling year, and every tip, every trick, everything I would like to say today, I pray and I hope that you actually take it in and listen to what it is that I have to say. Now, as you know, I'm a girl with my notes, so I have written down a few notes to speak about third year and just to really give you insight as to what you can expect. Maybe you were a second year student last year and you're moving into third year this year, and you know BCom accounting, it's your final year and you're excited to graduate, but there's still a lot you need to do before you graduate. So please make sure you pay attention. Now, overall, I would say third year is one of the toughest years within the degree. I know I keep saying it every year that it is a tough year, but in undergraduate, third year for me was by far the worst. I can understand first year, it's all about new experiences and having to adjust to university. And then second year, you're thrown into the deep end with lots of courses. But in third year is when you really dig deep into every single accounting course. It's where you dig deep into what it is that you're actually going to be doing within your career, within your profession, within whatever you do with the accounting degree. So third year is a really tough year. And for me, I would say the worst academic year of my life. When I say third year, almost took me out. It really did almost take me out. Like, I was struggling for most of it. And that's why I really think it's important just to have this platform to make sure you don't struggle as much as I had to struggle, and that you are equipped to make better decisions, to structure your academics better than I did, and to ask questions quicker than I did. So third year is really tough, and it requires the most amount of discipline. So with third year, a lot of it is all about what you have to do. As much as your lecturers can teach you, as much as your tutors can do their best, a lot of it is up to you. And a lot of it requires so much discipline on your end. Maybe creating a timetable, creating a structure, creating a routine will really help you to make sure that at every point in time, you are busy and you're studying, or you are being purposeful about what you're doing, right? It requires the most amount of discipline you'll ever need, because for the first few months, you're really covering a lot of the second year topics and adding one or two things to them. But then there's a point where things start to change, and the intensity of the degree starts to climb up. It starts to really become the most difficult thing that you can ever do. You get introduced to new courses and you get repeated courses. If there's something I wish I knew about the accounting degree, is how much law you actually have to do. Oh my word. I didn't ever think I'd need to do 3 law courses, but here I am 3 law courses later, and I'm in my PGDA. You're still going to be doing law. So if you thought you left law in first or second year, you're going to do it again. You have a new course called Business Analysis and Governance, and it's very different to your accounting courses because it tests thinking in a very different way to what your traditional Big Four accounting courses will test. So Business Analysis and Governance came as a shock to many of us. We thought it was very easy, very nice, and then you get into your first test and you are shocked to the core. One thing I would like to say before we continue is that hard work and the time and effort you put to it will not always reflect immediately. And I will say this because a lot of people I know are very hardworking. A lot of people I know would spend most of their days in the library, most of their nights in the library, yet the results that they get from tests and exams did not always reflect the amount of work they're putting in. And I would like to say, unfortunately, in third year, sometimes it really is what it is. The time and effort you put in might not always reflect immediately, but over time, it really will reflect. I will use myself for an example. My first few tests for tax, for example, I was not doing well, yet I was putting the most effort into it. And it's only towards the end where all that hard work and all that effort did start to pay off. I was doing so much better overall. But in the beginning, although I was spending most of my weekends on this specific course because I was struggling, it didn't really show when I was writing tests. It didn't really show when I was going to tutorials. It felt like the work I'm putting in was not reflecting back. So yes, hard work, time, effort does not always reflect immediately. And this is where you need to have a lot of endurance. You need to have a lot of patience for yourself. And you just need to be able to stick to it. Just because you aren't seeing results right now, it doesn't mean results won't come. So I'm going to break it down into all the subjects and give you a little breakdown of what happened in third year for me personally. Just a reminder, my experience of third year is not the universal experience of third year. Some people I know, third year was their best year. They didn't struggle as much academically as they did in first or second year. They had the best years of their lives. Yet for me, third year did a complete 180 and it was not as I expected it to be challenging, but I didn't expect it to be that challenging. So I'm going to break it down into each course. Now, something they will tell you in the beginning of the year is that in order to get into PGDA at UCT, you need a minimum of 55% in each course. Now, when I say 55%, you think that, oh my word, 55%, I mean, I got 60%, 70% in second year accounting. I mean, it's not that difficult, is it? 55% is manageable. But towards the end of the year, towards the middle of the year, you start to see that 55% in each course is actually quite a tough thing to achieve. It requires a lot of discipline, like I've said before, and it requires a lot of patience and just really pushing through and enduring through the most. So remember this and keep this in mind at the beginning of the year, in third year, that you need 55% minimum in each course. The reason why I am emphasizing this is that regardless of how high your other marks are, so you could be getting distinctions in audit, in tax, but if you're not getting 55% in all your courses, you do jeopardize your opportunities of getting into PGDA at UCT. So that's very, very important, 55% in each course. So I'm going to start off with governance, audit, and assurance. Those who are the real ones on this channel will tell you how much I hated this course in second year. It was the worst thing to happen to mankind. For me, I believed that it was out to get me. I believed that this is where my accounting journey must come to a stop, because what is auditing? Why do we need it? But in third year, I had a complete change of heart. When I say that GAR became one of the best subjects for me, it became one of those subjects I was actually excited to write a test for. It became one of the subjects where, not to say I didn't worry, but because it just clicked in third year for me. Everything just changed. I don't know how that happened, but in third year, audit became my best friend. And bear in mind, I spoke ill of audit in second year. I told you guys that I do not want to ever be an auditor because GAR is the worst subjects in the world. But now in third year, I've had a complete 180. And I think the reason being was that when I walked into third year, I said, guys, I do not want a repeat of second year audit. I need to change my life. I need to change however it is that I studied GAR. So what I did is that at the beginning of the year, I went to the audit AT and I said, hey, in second year, I really struggled with auditing. I don't know why it is that I struggled, but it just didn't click for me. And going to my ATs, who are your academic trainees, right? They're the ones to help you, to guide you, to steer you in the right direction. And that is what she did for me. She gave me her method of studying. And I found that her method of studying worked effectively, which was not taking too many notes in class, right? And this might not work for everyone, but it's not taking too many notes in class. Rather, listen to what they're saying. Listen to the concepts. And once you understand and you're hearing what they're saying, go back and reflect and write notes and summaries of the course. You don't need to have 20 pages for each topic, even 1 to 2 pages for the topic, but they're strong and powerful notes. And that is what helped me. In second year, I was constantly writing notes. I was saying, you see, my book is always full, but I'm not doing well. But in third year, I worked smart and I didn't have to work too hard. Obviously, I worked hard, but when it came to auditing, working smart really helped me. Another thing is consistency. What I loved about the auditing department in third year is that they would always test the older topics, even if you're in the middle of the year, and they would always bring it up somehow, somewhere, even if it's in a tutorial. And I found that for me, it helped me keep track of the older topics. It helped me keep track of what it is that I'm struggling with and then address it immediately. So consistency really will be your best friend when it comes to audit. Another thing is go to your TUTs. I found that our tutors in third year were incredible. Our third year audit tutors were some of the best tutors I've ever had in my life, right? And they really broke down such tough concepts into bite-sized information, creating structure to your answering, creating structure to how you should think through a scenario, looking for trigger words, looking for key concepts when looking at a scenario. What are the things you need to always be thinking about, the patterns of thinking that you should be going through? And I think going for your audit tutorials will help you. Another thing I'll say is that audit becomes repetitive. Like I said, they would constantly ask you earlier topics throughout the year. And for me, the repetition helped a lot of the concepts stick. I think towards the end of the year, I didn't really have to study semester 1, term 1 topics because they were testing it throughout so much that by the time it was my final exam, it was so ingrained in me. I could memorize and say a lot of the answers in my sleep. And that was just because of how much I've done it, how much I've actually studied those concepts. And I learned to understand and didn't learn for a test. So that's quite important. Learn to understand and not just learn to write a test. Alrighty. Next thing is tax. Wow. For me, another thing, tax second year was okay. I actually liked it. It was interesting. It was different. It was very legalistic and I didn't even understand why. But, oh wow, it was beautiful. That's second year tax. Now, let's fast forward to third year tax. What happened? I struggled, guys. I'm not even going to lie. I really struggled with tax in third year. And I didn't understand why. I was doing so well with tax in second year. Why am I struggling now? And this is where a lot of things became very tough. You learned the big main topic for me for third year tax was VAT. And in second and third year, first and second year, VAT is just 15% that you need to calculate. In third year, there's a whole act just for VAT and understanding the laws behind VAT, the accounting behind VAT. And I think the main issue is VAT is integrated into everything. I like to call VAT the deferred tax of tax because it is in everything, it's in every transaction. And what ends up happening is we all know how to do the normal tax. We all know how to do Section 10, Section 11, all those acts and sections within the Tax Act, but we don't know how to integrate it with VAT. And VAT becomes such a pervasive topic. So what I'll always advise someone going into third year tax is to really focus on VAT. Focus on VAT. Learn it in great detail. And I think for me, the biggest problem was I wasn't detail oriented when it came to learning about VAT. So I'll always say, when it comes to tax, you need to pay attention to the detail. Learn to look for trigger words. Learn to look at a transaction in its entirety because it can have so many tax implications. But we always know the normal tax implication, but do we know the VAT? Do we know the donations tax implication? Do we know the capital gains tax implications? So in third year accounting, everything you learned in second year tax comes back, but now they are heavily integrated. So yes, learn everything in isolation to a great detail and start to practice and start to learn how to look at an answer in an integrated form. So you're not going to get a transaction and look at one form of tax alone. In third year, they'll ask you, what are the tax implications? And you need to look at all the implications, everything in great detail. So you need to be detail oriented when it comes to tax in third year. Now, in the beginning, I wasn't doing well. And in the end, I did so much better. And that was because I started to pay attention to the details. Okay, now moving on to management accounting, one of my favorite courses ever. Still I won't lie and say it's easy. It, for me, is the toughest of all the 4 accountings, but it is my favorite. And I see myself working in that field one day. But management accounting was consistently challenging for me. And I realized that it's not because I don't understand concepts, but it's because I really struggle with learning how to write the exam the way they want you to answer, right? There's a specific way or specific method of answering to help you get the most marks possible, to maximize the marks that you can get. And for me, time was such a big challenge for me in tax. You get the most time in in Manac. You get the most time in Manac in the sense that you have 180 minutes for 100 marks, whereas your other courses, it's not the same mark to time ratio. But the reason being is that with the Manac scenario, it is so detail oriented that you really need to take your time to read. So I would take too much time reading the scenario that by the time I was answering the question, I was running out of time. I couldn't finish the question. It wasn't that I didn't know how to answer the question, but it was because that I spent too much time reading that by the time I got to answering, time is up. So what I have learned to do is I need to be able to speed read, but read efficiently and effectively. And this is where I'll say doing as many past papers will be your best friend. I know some people are against doing lots of past papers, but I think once you've understood concepts, it's all about learning how to manage your time effectively in tests and exams. And with Manac, this is the most challenging thing that a lot of people go through. It's not the concepts that people struggle with most in Manac. Maybe when it comes to transfer pricing, that's where people will struggle because transfer pricing is a challenging topic. But the main thing is you read a scenario, you want to answer, but by the time you can answer, you only have 30 minutes left. But this question requires you to do it within an hour. So time efficiency, time management will be your best friend. So I'd suggest once you have a TUT, once you have any practice question, try doing it under time pressure. Try managing your time wisely in your tests and exams because time will be your biggest enemy. Another thing is ask for help much earlier, especially when it comes to Manac. The topics are also quite integrated. Relevant costing becomes pervasive. So you learn relevant costing in second year. Do not forget relevant costing principles. They pop up everywhere. Everywhere you will see something about relevant costing. And don't forget the basics of relevant costing because it will be in every topic going forward. Another thing is learn to make an assumption very quickly. With Manac, their scenarios are so complicated. I think management accounting, to me, has the toughest scenario to read because there's so much information everywhere. You don't know what is relevant, what is not. And the thing is, you only know if it is relevant if you've seen what the question is asking. So this is where you really need to learn how to highlight and create a highlighting system for you within management accounting to help you with focusing your thinking, focusing and guiding yourself to an answer. Because there's so much information, the scenario can be very complex to read and to understand. So you just need to create a structure for yourself that tells you a pink highlighter is maybe everything to do with amounts, or a red highlighter is all about quantitative considerations or qualitative considerations. All of those things create a structure because a Manac scenario, it's a very tough one to read. Now let's move on to FR, financial reporting. First and second year, financial reporting was the best subject for me. I always knew I could do well in financial reporting. Third year, however, financial reporting became the enemy of progress. The feelings I had towards GAR1 in second year are the feelings I hate that I'm having for financial reporting in third year. It was gruesome. And you know what I'll always say, financial reporting is such a beautiful subject because there's a structure to it. There's a standard you can follow. But when it comes to these two topics, these two main topics in financial reporting in your third year, it is revenue and it is groups. I am telling you right now, sit down with yourself, interrogate everything they tell you about these two topics. Ask yourself questions at every point in time. Go to your lecturers, your ATs, your tutors. Ask for help in time. These 2 topics were, for me, my weakest topics. And unfortunately, they were 75% of my exam. So every other topic I learned that I was good at, that I would say mastered just for myself, didn't really come up in the exam. And it was the 2 topics I struggled with that came up in the exam. And these are the 2 topics, when I ask a lot of honors and CTA students, they say will always come back to bite you. They always come back. So groups and revenue, do not neglect those 2 topics. Go to your lecturers as soon as you start learning. Every week, come back with at least 3 questions. Come back with, inquiring more and more and more. Come up with scenarios in your head and ask your lecturer how this would happen. Because the scenarios I had in my head at home, guess what? They popped up in the exam, but I didn't have the answers to them. So make sure you always ask questions very early. I thought I was the only one going through this when it came to financial reporting. And then a lot of my friends had the same experience where it was their best course. It was a course they were really good at. They could put enough effort to do really well. But in 3rd year, effort alone will not cut it. You really need to start to go into the detail of things. And like I said earlier on with tax, financial reporting becomes so detail-oriented. You need to pay attention to the details. One word can change the sentence, can change your answer, can change everything that you're reading. So you need to interrogate. You need to scrutinize every single word to a certain extent and say, does this actually mean something to me? What do I do with this information? Is it useless information? Is it useful information? How do I use this to help me answer the question? So for financial reporting, I am begging you, even if you are naturally good at it, or even if out of the 15 topics, you're good at 13, if you're not good at groups, you're not good at revenue, you are jeopardizing your chances of getting into PGDA, because these are the 2 most tested topics in your exam, and your exam counts 60% towards your mark. Now, we're just going to have our final thoughts, our final, breakdown of what happened. Like I said, 3rd year is a very grueling year. This is the year you will be tried and tested. You'll be tired. You'll be on campus from 8 to 5 p.m. every single day. You will need endurance. You do not want to burn out too quickly. A bigger mistake that I made was that in 1st semester, I was going too hard too quickly. I was doing everything I could. And yes, it was good in terms of getting my momentum in check. But by the time you get to June, July, you're so exhausted. It becomes very difficult to study. So what I'm going to advise is do a little bit every day. Advice I got from an AT was that, guys, what you can do for yourself is just to start falling in love with the degree again. Not for marks, because your marks will, fluctuate, but start falling in love with the degree to actually learn. Have a desire to just want to learn. What is revenue all about? Why is it that we have a 5-week, or we did this topic over 3 to 4 weeks? Revenue is just one line item on your income statement. Why do it take so long to learn it? And just really start to fall in love with learning more than anything else, because the marks will fluctuate. And if you become marked and just results oriented the whole time, you will be discouraged at some point. Another thing is you need to be tenacious and have the ability to bounce back. You will experience failure. Some of my smartest friends, some of my smartest classmates told me that 3rd year was the first time they ever failed a test, right? Imagine some of my smartest friends, the first time they ever failed a test, the first time they got below 60% in a test was in 3rd year. Now, failure is relative. It's not always 50% for some people. And when the smartest kid in class is coming to you and saying, I got 55% on that test, I got 53% on that test, it starts to put a lot of things into perspective, that it is tough for everyone. It is tough for everyone. You need to be able to bounce back. You need to be able to just sit down with yourself and say, why do I want to be a chartered accountant? Is this really what I want to do? And keep it at the forefront of your mind. what are you doing this for? Why are you doing this? This is your dream. You want to have those 4 letters at the end of your name. You want to be a graduate at the best university in Africa or whichever university you go to. You want to achieve your dreams. So you really need to have some tenacity, the spirit of perseverance. Through hardship, through struggle, you know that you'll be able to get through in the end. Another thing is be friends with your ATs. I cannot stress this enough. One thing I did right in third year was that I was not necessarily friends with my ATs, but I made sure my ATs knew me. My academic trainees, at least my financial reporting, GAR and tax trainees, they knew my name because that is how frequent I'm going to them. That's how much I'm seeing them on a weekly basis, asking for help. And the reason why I say this is because it's easier for someone to help you if you show the desire to want to be helped, right? It's hard to go to a tutor and say, I need help. And it's like, why? It's like, I don't understand. Like, start to build a rapport with them. They will help you. They'll give you advice. I remember at some point, I had made a big mistake with tax, and I really had to try and message the lecturers and say, yo, lecturers, I did this and this. I'm sorry. Can you please help me? Blah, 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 blah. And if I hadn't had my trainees know me and advocate for me and say, she's incredibly hardworking, she's always on time for classes, she's always doing her tutorials, this must be a genuine mistake. It's not something like she's lying or she's trying to get out of this mistake or she's just lying to the lecturers. It was genuinely that I made a mistake and I had my ATs vouch for me. And that was because I was consistently going to them, asking for help, showing that I am hardworking, showing that I'm there to learn. That's why I say in your tutorials, going for consultations, it's so, so, so important to make sure your lecturers, your ATs know you. And if they know you, they're more willing to help you, even though it's their job to help you. But just make it easier on them. Every week, just go ask and say, hey, how are you doing? And then they'll be like, how can I help you? Just go to them, be nice. And one thing about them, they will save your academic career. So go to them as much as you can. And like I said earlier, have a spirit of learning. Be inquisitive. Ask questions. Obviously, in a lecture, it's not always the best setting to ask a question. So if you want to ask a question, like I said, go to your ATs. Go to your lecturers after the lecture or during a consultation, but just have an inquisitive spirit. While you're studying, always ask yourself, why is this important? How can I make this better? How is it that it's working together with these other topics? Where does it fit into my financial statements? Where does it go? Why is it the way we do this? It really helps you break down your thinking. Now, this is a very long video and a breakdown of third year. I hope this is very helpful. In the coming videos, I will be speaking about each course in detail, the resources I used, as well as anything to help you further and better yourself in each of the 4 courses so that you have the best foundation going into PGDA so that you can also graduate. So stay tuned for that. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed my third year review, the toughest academic year of my life. But now I can proudly say I am a UCT graduate. I have finished my undergrad degree at UCT in financial accounting, and I am one step closer to being a CASA. So from myself, Kamkhala Maponya, an aspiring CASA, it's love and light.